Hello, and welcome to the History Inquirer. This is where we inquire into the past to understand the present. Today's video is about the history of the colony of New Sweden, which is why you see the Swedish flag behind me. If this is your first time to my channel, you should know this is something that I do with every video. I showcase the flag as historically accurate as possible to the location I'm talking about as my background. So, with all of that said, let us begin. First, I need to talk about the flag behind me. This is the flag of Sweden, which consists of a golden yellow Nordic cross on a blue background. The cross symbolizes Christianity, while the gold and yellow colors represent generosity. The blue represents perseverance, truth, loyalty, justice, etc. The flag that you see behind me is the current version of the flag, which was adopted. Well, the modern version was adopted in 1906. However, the flag has been in use since the 1600s. The flag that would have been flown over the colony of New Sweden is very similar, and I'll put a picture of it in the corner so you can see, like right there. The reason why I went with this one is because I like the square shape and it's easier to hang up. It also looks good on my wall. Anyways, that's a flag, and now it's time to talk about the history of New Sweden. In the 1600s, Sweden was a major power and played a big role in the 30 Years' War on the European continent. Its domains extended over parts of Norway, all of Finland, and parts of Russia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Latvia, and Germany by the mid-17th century. In 1637, the New Sweden Company was founded by stockholders from Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden with the intent to set up a colony in North America to get in on the lucrative fur and tobacco trade. One of its leaders was Samuel Blommert, who was a wealthy and well-connected Dutch merchant and a leading director of the Dutch West India Company. He also had a good relationship with the Swedish Chancellor, Axel Oxenstierna. Name's kind of hard to pronounce. The Swedes also wanted to take advantage of the fact that while the English had set up colonies in the south at Jamestown and in New England to the north, they had not set up colonies in between. So it was with the backing of the Swedish government and other influential figures that the colony of New Sweden began. But where was the colony of New Sweden located? After all, that's probably the question you're all asking. Like, where is the colony located? I didn't know there was a colony of New Sweden in North America. Where was it? Okay, where was it? The colony of New Sweden was located around the Delaware River and included parts of modern-day Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. Peter Minuit, a former governor of New Netherland, led the expedition which left Sweden in late 1637. All these expeditions to found colonies, they're all leaving in late fall, early winter. Kind of weird to me. Anyways, the two ships they used were the Kalmar Nickel and Vogel Grip. They sailed into the Delaware River in 1638 and set up a crude fort called Fort Christina on a major Indian trading route off Brandywine Creek. Now, the fort was named after the adolescent Queen of Sweden, Queen Christina. The people who arrived first were Swedish and Dutch sailors and soldiers. not settlers or families. They were there to just kind of set things up, explore and secure the area to prepare for the arrival of colonists, settlers, which would arrive between 1640 and 1644. The people that arrived were around 200 in number, with at least 21 women, and came not just from Sweden, but also from Norway, the Netherlands, northern Denmark, northern Germany, Denmark, the Norwegian coast, and Finland. It was the Finns who adapted best to life in North America because they were more primitive and had greater affinity to the culture of the Native Americans than other Europeans. Bernard Bailyn, in his book, The Barbarous Years, says that the Finns would, by 1655, make up 40% of the colony's population. In addition, the Finns would introduce several frontier techniques, including the building of log cabins. The American log cabin was originally from Sweden and Finland. One log cabin found in Gibbstown, New Jersey, dates to 1638 and still stands to this day. Think about that for a minute. It was first built in 1638 and it still stands to this day in 2025. Now that's impressive. The Finns would also send home letters, reports on how things were going, which were very positive, and attracted more settlers to the region. All this in spite of all the hardships, the disease, authoritarian governors. Now, speaking of governors, the first governor was Peter Minuit, who negotiated the purchase of land from the Indians for the colony and supervised the construction of Fort Christina. After 4 months, he left and was replaced by Peter Riddler, who was a Swedish naval officer. Around the same time, a group of English colonists settled to the south of Fort Christina at Barkins Kill, which is now in Salem, New Jersey. This would be a problem that would hamper the growth and settlement of New Sweden, as it was same much between the Dutch to the north and the English to the south. Another group of colonists, this time from the Netherlands, was settled to the north. And that's a problem. They're like I said, they're sandwiched between the English and the Dutch, and the Dutch end up winning, as you'll see. So, and then of course the English would then take over New Netherlands and call it New York. So, anyways, Peter Riddler, during his time as governor, negotiated trade and land sales with the Native Americans, started a building program, and oversaw the planting of tobacco and vegetables. He also struggled to maintain the peace, not just between the natives and the colonists, but between the different Dutch and Swedish soldiers. In 1643, the new governor took charge of the colony by the name of Johan Bjornsson Prince. Johan Prince was a military man and did for the colony of New Sweden what Captain John Smith did for Jamestown. He governed the colony with an iron hand and extended settlement along both sides of the Delaware River. He continually wrote back home requesting more soldiers, settlers, and supplies, but he did not get them, or didn't get enough. He did get supplies and soldiers, but it was never enough. However, nevertheless, the colony of New Sweden would reach its height under his leadership. Conditions in the colony were bad. However, with many people either wanting to go back home or escape to other colonies, Many people resented the authoritarian regime of Prince, and in 1653, they rebelled. As Bernard Bailyn writes, I quote, 22 settlers, Swedes and Finns, presented the governor and indirectly the king with a list of grievances in 11 articles. They charged Prince with brutality and avarice, with endangering life and property, prohibiting settlers from trading freely while trafficking himself without restraint, and prohibiting them from grinding flour in the mill and from enjoying full access to fishing, timber, grass, and land. Following this, having lost the trust of the colonists, Johan Prince decided to pack up his things and head back to Sweden. The colony received a new governor in the form of Johan Rising. He would bring over 350 people, including colonists, soldiers, and crew with him. Upon arriving, he seized the Dutch Fort Casimir without firing a single shot, which would anger the Dutch colonists on the Netherlands. The fort would be renamed Fort Trinity, and land between it and Fort Christina would be given to the colonists and to the soldiers as well after 3 years of service. Though Johan Rising was successful in his attempts to revive the colony, his governorship was short-lived. In 1655, Dutch forces under Peter Stuyvesant attacked the colony and forced the forts of Trinity and Christina to surrender. However, the colonists were allowed to keep their land, govern themselves, worship freely, organize their own militia, trade with the natives, etc. The former colony of New Sweden, now under Dutch rule, would end in 1681-82 with the arrival of the English and William Penn. He would establish his own colony in Pennsylvania. After 1655, more colonists, mostly Finns, would continue to come and settle the lands around the Delaware River, seeking land and opportunity. They had an American fever, inspired by those letters that were sent home. I drew them and other immigrants from around the world to America as a land of opportunity, seeking the American dream as people still do today. Immigration from Scandinavia would slow down in the 1700s, however, it would pick up again in the 19th and 20th centuries. As reported by History.com, and I quote, some 1.3 million Swedes relocated to the United States, unquote. They would settle in places like Texas, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota. Their legacy and pioneering spirit continues to shape and define the history of the United States and is still with us today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time on the History Inquirer. Thank you.